I'd like to start this video off by saying I am not a financial advisor. Should you choose to invest in Bitcoin or any other asset, do your own research or seek the advice of an actual financial advisor, preferably one who knows a thing or two about crypto. Now, the past week has seen nothing but fake outs. We have broken, well, first off, we broke above the resistance at roughly 7,200, and then but there was no volume with it, so we ended up coming crashing back down through it and out the bottom of this ascending triangle, also without volume. And now we've been trading sideways. We pumped a little bit today. Also no volume. So, I don't think this pattern is really all that valid anymore. I mean, the resistance up here, I am still going to be watching it. But, for right now, I'm not going to be relying on this pattern as a whole. People on YouTube have changed this pattern to either a bear flag or a rising wedge or whatever else. Me, I'm going to be watching the 20-day EMA because the 20-day EMA is where Bitcoin has found support on and did bounce. It also happened to find support on the 50 point on the RSI here at the same time and started to somewhat bounce. As you can see, the MACD here started to converge bearish, but now it's starting to move parallel again. What Bitcoin does from here will ultimately dictate whether we're going to go down from here or up from here. That's where the 20-day EMA comes in play. If we break below this 20-day EMA and we do have volume, I could see us going back down and perhaps maybe going back down towards $6,000 range or maybe even the $5,000 range and finding another bounce off of the 200 weekly moving average. But right now, we just have to watch and see what it does with the 20-day EMA. I have recently brought up the fact that we seem to have formed an Adam and Eve formation, and that is in fact a double bottom bullish formation, which says that we should be going up. So I also am keeping that within consideration when talking about this. I know in my last video I didn't really talk about it. I just talked about like all the markets and the fact that they are forming similar patterns and could all be seeing downside soon, and Bitcoin included, because Bitcoin's price is going up and the volume has been going down, and usually that's an indication of a potential bearish breakdown. But that remains to be seen. If Bitcoin can break back above this resistance at 7,200 with volume, then we could see some more upside. And if we keep gaining upside, if this is a bear flag, if it keeps gaining upside, that bear flag will be soon invalidated, and we will be on our way up. It's going to depend a lot on what Bitcoin does now, and on a lot of what the global markets do too, because although Bitcoin is not directly correlated with the US stock market or the other markets, it does seem to follow suit considering the circumstances of what the global markets are dealing with. And in my last video, I mentioned that all the global markets are likely to see some more downside because of the bearish formations that they have all formed, which would likely bring Bitcoin's price down. But if Bitcoin can decouple from that, from the regular markets at that time, then Bitcoin really wouldn't have to fall down. It would keep on going up, just like gold is going up right now. I think gold has seen some recent price movement in the upwards direction. It's been spiking recently. Yeah. Now, there's another thing I gotta point out. That is veering more towards the bullish side. It depends on how we finish this daily candlestick on the Heiken Ashi. The Heiken Ashi did see a little bit of downside here, as you can see. It also found support on the 20-day EMA, but now what we are doing is we are putting in a doji, which shows indecision or potential short-term trend change, just like you've seen right here. It put in a doji when it went to go towards the downside, put in a doji when it went to go towards the upside, but sometimes they don't even change the trend, as long as it just depends. It's going to depend. Personally, I believe it's going to depend on whether we can hold this 20-day EMA. If we can hold it long enough for Bitcoin to make a move in the upwards direction and break above this $7,200 range, which would also coincidentally break it above the Ichimoku cloud here, we could see more upside, and we can potentially make our way up towards 7,800, where there's going to be some heavy resistance. Between 7,800 and 8,200 is where there's going to be a lot of resistance at. That's the point that we're going to have to be watching for next. if we do break out of this area here. So right now, it all depends on whether we can break up or break up above the $7,200 area, or break down below the 20-day EMA, which is currently sitting at roughly 6,800, I would say, maybe. Yeah, we'll say 6,800. So we're trading in a range between 6,800 and 7,100 right now. So watch these charts over the next day or two, and you will likely get a decision of where Bitcoin's going to go for the next week or two. If Bitcoin does break the 20-day EMA, also, that means Bitcoin will likely break the neutral zone on the RSI, and that shows bearish territory, and that would be another reason for us to go down. And of course, if we do break both of these points, that means the MACD on the daily here is going to cross bearish, and that's going to signal downwards movement. And on the other side, if we break above this resistance here, you'll see the RSI start to spike up, and the histogram will start building white again, and we won't have a bearish cross on the MACD. So right now, like I said, we're stuck at a decision point. I think I've said that recently in the past like 2 weeks or something. But that's because Bitcoin's price just keeps trading range bound, and there's no volume with it. It's stuck in this range. And until it can break out of this range and make a decision, there's really not much else to say. There's people calling for prices of Bitcoin prices of like $3,000. I think I even seen someone say $1,000. I mean, that's a bit out there. Give it time to make a decision before you go going full on bearish or full on bullish. Right now, I'm kind of neutral short term. It's showing signs of going in either direction. So we just have to wait and see. With that, I think let's see if there's any news worth going over. Okay, so I brought up the news here, and the first thing I see is 30 days left. Bitcoin RSI has never been this oversold pre-halving. And so it made me get the idea to jump to the weekly to check on that. And I should go over the weekly a little bit before I go moving further into the news. And as you can see here on the weekly, let's make this window a little bit bigger. Now, as you can see here on the weekly, the RSI is in fact down here below 50, and then something else caught my eye. This is still on the hike in a sheet, by the way. Looking at the MACD, it looks like it's going to be starting towards a bullish cross again here, and that may happen here within the next couple of weeks, maybe another 2 months. So we might actually get our bullish cross on the weekly sometime after the halving, which, I mean, given what the halving is and the fact that it could mark the start of the next major run, a lot of people was expecting a pre-halving run-up, and me personally, I am still expecting one, but at the closer it gets, the lower the price expectation I have for the pre-halving run-up. And it's also going to depend on a lot on what the global markets do too. Like, if the global markets see another major collapse, we may not have a pre-halving run-up. We may end up just trading sideways or falling downwards, we may end up trading at $5,000 by the time the halving comes around. It depends on a lot of factors here. But at the current rate, at what we are doing right now, we could see a bullish cross within the next 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks maybe, on the MACD. Usually the MACD with a bullish cross indicates a decent bull run is going to happen. However, sometimes, as you can see here, when we had the spike up at the beginning of the year, that didn't exactly pan out. We did have a run from 6 point something thousand to just above $10,000, but then we ended up coming back down. So, and we had our death cross right there on the MACD, and so, yeah, that wasn't really much of a bull run as far as Bitcoin goes. Maybe for a normal asset on a stock market, yeah, I guess that would be considered a bull run, but for Bitcoin, that was just like a quick bounce. I guess that's the way I would put it. But yeah, that's something to keep an eye on there. The fact that the MACD is going towards crossing bullish here soon on a weekly. And also, another thing on the weekly, on the Indecisiveness, you can see the trend has in fact changed towards the bullish side. We did put in our doji right here, and we are starting to have some upward momentum on the weekly on the Indecisiveness. So that, coupled with the fact that we could be having a bullish cross on the MACD, that is a very strong signal that we could be seeing more bullish momentum in the near future than bearish. But like I said, it's gonna depend on what the global market does. It's gonna depend a lot on what happens in the world today. So yeah, for past examples of what I was talking about here, you can see the last time when we had our run up to 10K here, you could see we put in a couple dojis actually showing indecision or the end of a trend, and a shift to a new trend, and you could see the MACD crossed bullish not too far after. That would be the same case here if we do. We're starting a bullish trend here according to the Indecisiveness on a weekly, and what would follow is a bullish cross on a MACD sometime in a couple of weeks or a month or two. So this is definitely something to keep an eye on. Now we're going to just scroll on over here to the news and see what else we have. Okay, this Bitcoin Challenger is suddenly soaring and fast approaching its all-time high price. May's Bitcoin rewards halving will force weak miners off the network. I think we all know that. You can now 51% attack Bitcoin Cash for the cost of a single Bitcoin. Yeah, Bitcoin Cash had its halving recently, and I guess a lot of people capitulated, maybe. But anyways, I'm not too sure on exactly what happened, but you can do a 51% attack on Bitcoin Cash for fairly cheap compared to what you can do on other networks. So I don't know. That's bad news for Bitcoin Cash. I do know that for a fact. I don't think there's really anything else new going on. Chainlink rallied 149% since March's bottom. Yes, that Chainlink has been tearing recently, so that's for those of you invested in Chainlink, congrats on that one. I mean, personally, I am invested in Chainlink. Let's see what else we have. Coin Mixer record-breaking month proves Bitcoin users want anonymity. Well, yeah, that's one of the main reasons people dive into crypto is for anonymity. Fund manager, Bitcoin price is poised to pop due to this reason. Bitcoin active supply touches 3 years high, but Bitcoin closes above range of hell as top traders eye upside. So as you can see, the sentiment is kind of mixed here. I mean, Ubit released a Coinbase-powered Skyscanner for Bitcoin. Peter Schiff, in the next years, gold will rise more than Bitcoin because Bitcoin price will crash. Okay, right here, this, I think we can use this as a good indication that we could be seeing some decent price movement in the upwards direction on Bitcoin, because every time Peter Schiff makes a call against Bitcoin saying Bitcoin's going to go down, Bitcoin always goes up. I think Peter Schiff's calls are the most accurate indicator to counter trade. Yeah, I don't think there is any other indicator out there that has been as accurate as Peter Schiff's calls. And Peter Schiff has made the wrong call literally every time on Bitcoin, just about, maybe 99% of the time. I don't know. I haven't looked too far into that, but if you've been in the crypto space for a while, geez, I think you already know about that. Bitcoin, yeah, $3,000 price target. Yeah, that's another thing. That's one of the price targets that I mentioned earlier, that people were calling for, $3,000 Bitcoin or $1,000 Bitcoin. Personally, I don't see it going down that far. If it does drop, I see it dropping to the 200 weekly moving average and getting another bounce. But you have to give it time to see what it's actually going to do. Until the future comes, we don't actually know what the future holds. So, I think that's I'm not really going to jump into any news articles here today. I was just getting a kind of an idea of what the people were thinking about as far as Bitcoin's price and everything was going. And as you can see, it's kind of a mix between bullish and bearish. So, moving on. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick rundown of the 19 chart here. I've been doing this every weekend, so this weekend is no different. Actually, this weekend is kind of different because for the first time we have not doubled our case count from last weekend. Last weekend was 1.2 million. This weekend is 1.8 million, so we actually gained 50% more cases as opposed to 100% more cases. So that is a good sign. However, that is because the major hotspots are starting to flatten the curves, like New York and Italy and whatever else. If we get new hotspots, they start to spike. That could very well lead to us going on another astronomical run with the case counts. And another thing you got to keep in mind is that 1.8 million people is less than 1% of the world's population. So there are plenty more people out there that have not had this virus. Although this case count may be dramatically lower than the amount of people that have caught this. Even if 10 million people have actually caught this virus, that still means that 7.6 billion people have not caught the virus. I'm not sure exactly the exact world population, but you get my point. There's a lot of people out there. There's still potential for this virus to actually explode again. So, like, for example, if the government decides to follow through with reopening the country April 30th, that could lead to that exact problem. The case count spiking back up again and going out of control. So I highly doubt it that this country right here is going to reopen April 30th. It may take a while for this to it's going to take a while for this shit to blow over. We have 112,000 deaths total. Those are numbers that we don't like to see. However, that's still going to continue to rise, unfortunately. Do not know why they removed the amount of people recovered from this virus. They instead replaced it with the amount of people who have been tested with this virus. I do not know why they include that as a statistic, because just because those people have been tested negative does not mean they are incapable of getting this virus in the future. Those same people could end up going back in with the virus and adding to this case count. So this is an illogical statistic. They should not have included tested people, total tested people or whatever. Anyways, they should have left the total recovered on this map, but that's my personal opinion. The main point that I'm going to try to make here is do not get overconfident. There's always a chance that new hotspots can form and this number can start getting out of control again. So just keep doing what you're doing. Stay away from people. Don't travel if you don't need to travel. There's always information you can get off the CDC's website, the World Health Organization's website, your state, local government's website, federal government's website, whatever other government you have's website, whatever health organization that you have in your area's website, your local physician. There's information everywhere about this virus. Just do your part to try to help contain this virus. Until we get a vaccine, this virus will remain a threat. With that, that is all I have for you guys today. I will see you all next time. Stay safe out there.